Wow. Philadelphia Eagles do something that I didn't think would be possible. And I know a lot of you out there didn't think it would be possible as well. Don't lie to yourself and don't lie to me. Appreciate you riding with us. Hit that thumbs up button. Please make sure you're subscribed here to the Philly Voice Sports channel. It's over. The Philadelphia Eagles get a knockout victory here against the Detroit Lions, one in which came in such emphatic fashion. It was, dare I say, a perfect football game by the Philadelphia Eagles. And what stands out, I think, the most, more so than anything else, was that Nick Sirianni had a planned and then stuck to that plan commitment to running the football. And it wasn't even with Miles Sanders or really Kenneth Gainwell for that matter. It was everybody, including Jalen Hurts. And hopefully there's a wake-up call in his head where he realizes that you can still run the football with other guys, and it's not going to impact Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts' deadly legs, and Jalen Hurts still can lead the team in rushing. That doesn't mean it has to be one or the other. If there's anything sustainable on the offensive end, it would be that. Defense played insanely well today. You saw that against the Lions where they couldn't do anything. I don't care how bad their offense is. I don't care how bad their quarterback is. I don't care how bad their coaching is. I don't care how injured they are. All of it. All of it is there. But we still see teams, it's a week-to-week matchup league. We still see letdowns. We still see, everything points to one thing happening and then the other thing happens because it's any given Sunday in this crazy up and down league. That's the NFL. So to go in and win on the road in the first place is tough. To do it in that convincing manner, we've crushed this team. Go back and look at the tape. This tape on post-flight. We have destroyed the coaching staff. We have been critical and called out players. Nothing like that existed against Detroit. And it wasn't an answer. This isn't a back and forth between fans and the team or anything contentious like that. It was a statement. And I think, if anything, it was a switch that was flipped. Not to say that this is going to change everything moving forward. I'm not even worried about the Chargers, but think of it like a light switch that was flipped. Oh, wow, there's light now in the room. You think I'm talking about flipping a switch like, turning into playoff mode. No. I mean more like you open up a door, it's dark, you hit the light. Oh, wow, look what's over there. Wait a second, we have room here too. There's that mirror I was looking for. Light shines upon the situation, and now you realize what you have. That is the light. That is the switch that was truly flipped on offense. It's just a matter now of what they recognize they have and what they can do with it. But this was an all-out ass thumping handed down by the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was coming into this game, they could not afford to lose to the Detroit Lions. Doing that would essentially lose the season, lose the locker room, lose veterans, everything. That it would just be an all-out loss. Really, the worst possible case scenario I think we could have with this football team in a long time. But if they go in, meander, they go in, they hang, go in, struggle, survive against the Lions, me included, we were all prepared to come down on them. Oh, come on. It's the Lions. You can't even do anything of merit here. Are you kidding me? It's the Detroit 0-7 at the time Lions, and you can't even come out with somewhat of a convincing victory? This was a preemptive strike by the Philadelphia Eagles, the coaching staff, everybody involved, to come at it a third way, one that really wasn't offered to them. We're busy breaking down everything. Jimmy Kempski, Matt Mullin, Evan Macy, all on Philly Voice, going to join us on post-flight. Eagles. They earn this week. That's for damn sure. All right, let's bring in our own Jimmy Kempski, at Jimmy Kempski, of course, on Twitter, covering everything with your Philadelphia Eagles here on Philly Voice. Hello, Jimmy from Detroit.
Hello, friend.
Just a quick question. Why, or maybe how? Like, how is this possible that a team could look so bad, so disheveled, so unprepared, or just move away from things that worked way more often than not, but look like a perfect football team with everything working on all three facets of the game. How is that possible that they were able to do that in Detroit?
Well, I think you start with the fact that the Lions are now 0-8, and they're also not like, I mean, not only are they a bad team, but they're also really banged up. So like they had, significant injuries along their offensive line. They're starting left tackle. Taylor Decker was out. Frank Ragnow, their all-pro center, was out. They were missing one of the running backs in Jamal Williams. They were missing a couple of their cornerbacks. Notably Jeff Okudah, who they took third overall in the 2020 draft. They were missing a couple wide receivers. So it was already a really bad team, but they were also really banged up. Add on top of that Jared Goff stinks. Also played terribly today. And their coaching staff, which I think, maybe was like, they're not hard, or at least I didn't think they were horrible heading into this game. He just made some crazy decisions in this game. Most notably, at the end of the first half, they have a 4th and 1 with, I think, 13 seconds left. And instead of kicking a field goal, they're the Eagles' 22-yard line. Instead of kicking a field goal, they go for it. What's the end game there? If you get the first down, you're just going to kick a field goal anyway. What are they doing? So they played a bad, injured, stupid football team, and that's how a bad team winds up winning 44-6.
And you mentioned bad team because I don't think that the Eagles are out of the clear by any means for their sins to the game earlier this season leading up to this, right? So let's flip it. Moving forward, it doesn't even need to be next week, but just from a big picture standpoint of what you saw, and granted, everything that you mentioned is in the backdrop and hovering over this question by all means, Jimmy, but what do you think is sustainable? Even if it takes 2-3 weeks, just something that you think, or maybe some things, if there are, that could be built upon from this win.
Yeah, so I think what they did, and I apologize to the Eagles, by the way. I shouldn't just give all the credit to the Lions being horrible. The Eagles actually did play well today, too, which I should probably also mention. But I think the thing that's sustainable for this team going forward is that their offensive line is really kind of the strength of the team. And not only that, like they were able to move the defensive lineman, or the Detroit Lions defensive lineman off the line of scrimmage at will today. I mean, they were more physical and they just dominated physically at the point of attack. And they really haven't tried to do that this year. Like whenever they've had run plays, they've mostly been on RPOs. And on those types of plays, you're not trying to drive block. You're not power blocking. You're not moving defensive linemen against their will off the line of scrimmage. And they did a lot of that today, and they were very successful with it. Again, not a good Lions team, but it's something that I thought that they should be able to do all throughout this entire season. And, you have people like they've turned reasonable people that would never be, run the ball guys. But like it's sort of the run game sort of fits the strengths of the personnel that they have offensively, from Jalen Hurts, who's a running quarterback. I mean, they didn't even have, their starting running back in Miles Sanders today. They pretty much rolled with Boston Scott, Jordan Howard. Kenny Gainwell got some action later in the game. But I mean, they ran the ball really effectively on the strength of a very powerful run blocking offensive line. So if there's something that they can learn from this game, is that works for this team. So we'll see if they continue to have that as, a significant part of their game plan going forward.
I wouldn't ask this question if they had a winning record, if they put together a better product, I think, overall. But what do you take away from today that you think or maybe could be fool's gold? Like something that the Eagles did today that maybe they are okay, we've got it. But it goes back to, look, that team was just really bad that you faced overall.
Yeah, so on that same theme of, we've been we meaning like fans, media, radio, etc. have been saying you need to run the ball more. You need to do this. And they haven't done the things that we've sort of said they should be doing, and they did them today. I think on that same theme was the defense being more aggressive against this Lions offense. I mean, all season long we've seen the Eagles park their safeties 60 yards off the line of scrimmage. I'm exaggerating, of course, but way off the line of scrimmage.
55.
It's just being content, playing a lot of zone and being content to, sort of try to play anyway, sort of bend but don't break defense, which oftentimes has turned into a bend and bend some more and then bend some more until the other team scores a touchdown defense, most notably against teams like the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Raiders and the Buccaneers. We saw a lot of that against those teams, and those teams were content to just take the underneath stuff all day and score touchdowns. So I think that the idea that they came out and they were aggressive, they blitzed a lot more, they played a lot of single high looks defensively, and it was successful against a very bad Lions offense. I don't think we can really count on them, rolling out that kind of game plan against really good offenses going forward, and B, them having the same level of success that they had against this Lions team if they do go that way. On the other hand, they don't really have many good offensive teams left on their schedule. They have one next week in the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be interesting to see, if sort of if Jonathan Gannon sort of rolls with a similar game plan that he laid out for this Lions game and tries to be a little bit more aggressive against a good offense that we haven't seen him do that against the other good offenses that we've seen. So I think that'll be sort of a litmus test on, what, Gannon can do in terms of adjusting to what is working and what isn't working. But I think that's, to answer your question, I think that, what they did defensively today probably is not the thing that's sustainable going forward.
Jimmy, last one for you. Just a quick one on your way out. I know you guys aren't in physically the locker room, but just getting the climate and the feel of this team that you cover each and every day. There clearly have been internal struggles, and that's probably putting it lightly, to serious frustrations. Winning cures all, but this was just one game. In your opinion, what do you think a game like this has done for the internal fractures that we've at least heard about in this team?
So if they had lost this game, I think it would have been something of a rock bottom for them. So yes. that they were able to win this game and do so as convincingly as they did, I think, they'll feel good about that going home to Philadelphia. They're probably on the plane on the way home right now. But, after the Raiders loss, which was brutal, Fletcher Cox was openly critical of Jonathan Gannon after the game, not necessarily by name, but talked about his schemes and such and so forth and his usage and whatever. And, I think the morale of the team was pretty low after that game coming home from Las Vegas. They needed this win badly. And, it's not hard to, it's not easy to have, 2 consecutive road games. You go on the road to Las Vegas,
Sure.
You come home, you practice, you try to, wipe the slate clean, you try to, recover from a really bad loss, and you're right back on the road again. Luckily, again, they ran into maybe the worst team in the NFL, and they were able to capitalize on that. So, a win is a win, and a win can cure a lot of things. And I think for at least 1 week, they did that. We'll see how they come out and they play against a good LA team that actually lost this week to the New England Patriots at home. So we'll see how, they rebound as well. But they do have another tough opponent upcoming in the Chargers.
Get some sleep, brother. Thank you as always, and we'll see you in Philly soon, Jimmy.
All right, Eytan.
All right, let's look at it. 3 big takeaways, and this is easy. It was an all-out slaughter, and everything worked. Number 1 is probably the most obvious of all, and that's running the football. These are going to be short and sweet. 41, you get to that point where you are destroying and hammering a team. You don't need to go into serious, that's for when you lose games that you shouldn't. And we need to surgically operate on what's wrong with you from both the mental and physical. Right now, following that level of just embarrassment that Detroit suffered, both internally and externally handed down by the Eagles, number 1 is the punishment on the ground. Jordan Howard, Bart, what you saw across the board, right? Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and then, of course, the league here, threat on the ground that we're starting to see with Jalen Hurts, team leading, still no issue there, right? He didn't lose any title because they ran over 200 yards, and I don't know if there's any concern about that or what have you with the coaching staff, but we saw a legit rushing power. and they inflict every single time pain on the other side on that defense. Downhill. They were running downhill halfway through the second quarter. It was a beautiful thing to see, and that's the number one takeaway. Number two is the defense. Number two is Jonathan Gannon, and more importantly, Darius Slay, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. We're seeing it each and every time that these guys are allowed to be aggressive in the scheme and are relying more on their instincts and talent as opposed to being put in a spot and then something that's clearly unorthodox to a couple, including Fletcher Cox, who spoke out about it, asking them to be doing different things in a scheme that they're not used to, or just counter to what they've been doing. And it doesn't even need to be schematic. It's just, hey, instinctually, you're looking at doing one thing and you're being coached the other. That seems to have been, at the very least, dissipated, if not completely gone. Seems to be something that we have moved on from now, focusing on. After one game, yeah, compared to what we got from the Raiders, yes, absolutely yes. This was a coordinator who was listening. This was a coordinator who was in tune with the game plan. And most importantly, way more importantly than Jonathan Gannon, who is going to come and go, so long as Fletcher Cox is here, he needs to be catered to. And I'm not talking about off the field. I mean, as far as on the field. And yes, schematically. And trust Darius Slay. Trust guys to make plays. Put them in position to make plays. And you will be rewarded as such. Thought it was fantastic, the synergy to where Jonathan Gannon was able to take a quasi backseat, still almost like riding shotgun in the sense of directions, but doing it from the back seat, having Fletch drive the vehicle, and then there's Big Play hanging out the window yelling. It was awesome to see. And that's that synergy that I think we want and at least expect. Maybe not everything to work and the plays to work, but at least this synergy of being in tune with the game. Sirianni in tune with the game. Jonathan Gannon in tune with the game. Lastly, Jalen Hurts, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about him not throwing the football as accurate as maybe need be, or just the fact that you didn't get a large sample size of him throwing the football. Look, this is all about growth. This is all about managing a game, not in the old Trent Dilfer way, but in the new Tom Brady way, which is sometimes you're going to have to throw for 350. Sometimes you're going to have to throw for 150. Depending on the game script, why would you want him to throw and actually try and move the ball down the field any more than they actually did? What would you be looking at and say, I want 5 to 10 more attempts from Jalen Hurts against the Lions? We've seen soft defense, yes, but we've still seen him make some throws. I think at the very least, if you are not sold on Jalen Hurts being the quarterback of the future, the game against the Lions offered some pretty good light on to what he can be in a situation where he doesn't have to take over a game, in a situation where he doesn't have to be the only cog, forget Maine, but the only thing driving this vehicle of success in that offense, or in the fourth quarter for that matter. Doesn't have to be that. And that was key here, no pun intended, as we wind down our 3 takeaways, because for Jalen Hurts to not have to force things in the air unnecessarily in a game flow that is clearly favoring the Eagles, there's nothing really to be upset about. He's going to miss throws. It's his real, true rookie as a starter year in this offense, at least. And again, at the very least, if you're not sold on him being the quarterback of the future, you have to admit that you see signs in which he can grow. Under the right tutelage, sure. With the right talent around him, sure. But that's a lot of it. All right, let's bring in the crew. Matt Mullin, Evan Macy, both have been on individually here on Post Flight. So we're going to experiment now with the 3 of us. It's like the Brady Bunch. We keep growing and growing. Next week, we're going to get Kyle. By the time we're all done here, we'll have Kempski on here as well. So, gentlemen, appreciate you rolling with us here on the show tonight. Absolute embarrassment, flat out destruction of the Detroit Lions. Let me just, a quick broad question, because I didn't anticipate this. Maybe some idiot like me picked the Lions to win this football game and even bet it. So I can't answer this. But Evan, Matt, start with you, Evan. what surprised you the most about this victory? Not the fact that they won by that large of a margin, but in turn, like actual game itself, what surprised you the most?
Probably the defense. I'm not surprised that they were able to get those 6 sacks because we know that the defensive line is fairly talented. I can't believe the way that they were able to just keep the Lions from doing anything offensively. I thought that their defense has shown a lot of warts against the teams that aren't super great. And I thought that, the Lions would be able to score and this would be, something in the mid-20s and it would be a reasonably close game. And not only did the Lions not score until garbage time, they didn't really even threaten at all. I think they missed a couple of field goals. But, man, the thing I didn't think about, because there's all this Dan Campbell love out there, is he's not a good coach. I mean, I haven't watched a lot Lions, so I can't speak from a lot of experience, but oh my God, he's worse than Sirianni. He was terrible. He was absolutely terrible, and I did not think that was going to be a factor.
Well, it's funny, Evan. I thought for certain you were going to steal my answer because the obvious answer here is that they ran the ball 40 times. I mean,
yeah.
Miles Sanders goes down, their best running back, and that's when they're going to run the ball that many times. I mean, sure, obviously some of that had to do with the situation in the game with them going up big and stuff, obviously. But even before that, they were committed to the run early and they kept at it the whole game. And I'm hopeful that this will be the big surprise out of everything, is that they take this and continue this moving forward. If they can keep doing that, they'll be able to stay in more games and they won't have to play catch up from behind the whole time like they had been most of the season.
I just want to piggyback off that really quick and make a good point.
Go ahead.
About the running game. And that's, nobody really talked about how the offensive line was kind of like intact for more than a week. And Lane Johnson kind of seems to be settling in. And maybe that is a huge thing people aren't talking about. Just the O-line's chemistry and its health. I know Driscoll got hurt, but other than that, it looked kind of like they were doing the best they've done all year because there was a lot of continuity there.
No, it's a great point. And I think that's their strength, right? We've always talked about it being their strength because when they're all fully healthy, and I'm talking about 2 guys clearly who are out for the season, I get it, but it's not just the bodies, it's also the game plan. It's also using whoever you have healthy, including Lane, as you mentioned, coming back. So no, I think that's great to see them actually realize, hopefully I should say realize, that they have the ability to move piles and to get yardage on the ground, of course, without Miles Sanders. But I guess that's something to look at, too. And let me take the obvious off the table, Matt, and I'll throw it back to you before Evan. But take the obvious off the table, which is they ran 40-plus times, over 200 yards, and it was beyond impressive. We all want this to continue. Take something else from this football game that you not only hope to see continue, but you think is truly realistic that can continue. Again, I'm going to take the obvious one of them running the football insanely that amount of times off the table for you.
I think, and I hope I'm not stealing Evan's answer here because he wrote about this earlier, but the discipline, the lack of penalties, that was something that's plagued this team throughout the season. And, they lost some bad games, and I'm not going to say that the penalties are the number one reason that they've lost. But if you go back and look at a game like the 49ers game, if I remember correctly, they had a lot of penalties called against them in that game, and that was a game that was there for them to win. So, I'm hoping that that's something that is now, because it wasn't just this week. I'm pretty sure the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've been getting better progressively with the penalties. So if they can keep that up, that'll help them in close games, which is what we're expecting, as they get more into, the Jets, the Washington Giants games and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think, honestly, offensively, we didn't really – I don't know if this was a happy accident or Sirianni's plan, but they asked Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 35 times a game, and they thought that was a winning formula. And I don't have it in front of me. I don't think he threw more than 15 times, though. And I'm wondering if maybe the way that they're able to win is to ease the burden on Jalen Hurts and have him throw less. He can use his legs. He can be a game manager, etc. But I don't think he's going to be a guy that's able to throw the Eagles out of a jam. And so that's something that I hope continues if they can establish the run and have him throwing the ball under less stressful situations, that's probably going to help them out.
14 times.
Yeah, real quick, just to piggyback off that, isn't that kind of what we all expected this team to look more like going into the season? A game like what we saw today, running the ball more, not relying on Hurts, letting Hurts have some opportunities to throw, but not relying on him, and then letting him run when he needed to. At least I thought, 35 runs a game, something like that was going to be normal for them. So it's nice to see them finally do that.
I think you could look at Cleveland as a kind of a mirror of a game plan of expectation, where they add Kenneth Gainwell, and you're already excited about the prospects of having two running backs. We all talked about it, right? Oh, they could be on the field same time, 22. But yeah, I think to your point, coming into the season with a healthy offensive line and two running backs, a quarterback that is, we hope, right, a ceiling higher than Baker Mayfield, but from the game script, not asked to be the reason why you win, and therefore the boom bust potential could be clearly the reason why you lose. So no, I think you're onto it, where there are extractable pieces of success from this Lions game, right, that you could use at least as a broader picture to move forward. Let me just ask you this, guys, and I don't know if it's changed your mind at all. It hasn't for me, and I'm gonna kind of assume that things have already been in the works, at least deals have already been discussed, but the trade deadline is right around the corner. Does this, if you thought the Eagles were sellers or should be sellers before this game, has your opinion changed? And if you don't think that the Eagles should be sellers at all, I'm curious as to why you think that, and maybe today the game against the Lions had any impact. So, Evan, let's start and see if that changed your opinion at all. You and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago ahead of the trade deadline about what the Eagles should do.
Yeah, I don't think it changes anything. I don't think it should change anything. I mean, they won 44-6, and it's kind of hard to just, brush that off. It was a monster win, even over the Lions, but they're probably going to back their way into winning 5 or 6 more games. Matt mentioned they have the Giants twice, they have Washington twice, they have the Jets. The Broncos aren't great. There's winnable games out there. So their draft position is already probably going to be somewhere in the teens, not thinking about the other 2 first-round picks that they have. So I think that they could kind of be helping themselves by getting worse, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because if they finish with 6 or 7 wins, what's the difference between that and finishing with 4 or 5 wins? Which is all just to say that strategically the best thing for the team is to sell. Jimmy Kempski, who is our Eagles beat writer and knows a lot more about the cap than me, really pressed upon me how few guys they actually could trade because of some ridiculous contract things they did. I didn't realize that Derek Barnett's final 5th-year option was spread out over 5 years. And so if they trade him, they get cap hits for a long time. And
right.
It's really stupid things that they did contract-wise. So it was clear that Howie Roseman kind of built this team thinking they might be able to win because they're on a lot of tradable pieces. So I think that the money for me is on some minor deals or them staying pat. I don't really know who they're going to be able to move. Maybe Matt has a different opinion. I don't think there's any chance they buy, but I think staying pat is probably my prediction.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the only way I see them adding something is Howie taking a flyer on something that wouldn't really impact the team this year and would be more for something, a low price, high upside acquisition for, next year. But I don't think that would be, why waste those draft picks that you have if you are thinking of potentially moving up in the first round? They're all things that you can package together later. You can package together for a player if you're going to add a quarterback. So yeah, I don't think that they will be buyers. And Evan, like you said, and Jimmy has written about it, it's tough for them to do a lot of things if they want to be sellers. Fletcher Cox's contract restructure almost made him untradeable. And he's probably, their biggest trade chip that they have now. Miles Sanders was another guy that they had talked about. He's hurt now, so I don't know that he's going to be dealt anywhere if they were thinking about that. They already traded Ertz. So really, like you said, what else do they have left?
What about Dillard?
Andre Dillard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But here's the thing. Sorry, Evan. I was just going to jump in. Andre Dillard isn't like trading Fletcher Cox, right? Like Andre Dillard isn't waving the white flag on this season and also starting a major rebuild at a key position that you've had a luxury of dominating over the past couple of years. Andre Dillard ain't even a starter when everybody's healthy.
He's been playing better, and I don't think he could be, improving. And if they see that in practice and they feel they're not going to get a return that's worth a former first-round pick that they still believe is young enough and has some potential, that in a couple years when they are contending again, he's still going to be in his prime and be young enough that he can contribute on a team. Hopefully he can learn how to play the other side, because Jordan Mailata looks like a stud. But, we'll see.
Yeah, this is all to say that you're not going to see any blockbusters, and the most you can hope for is Dillard for a fourth. So I don't think it's going to be very exciting.
Evan Macy, Matt Mullin, thanks, gentlemen.
Yep, no problem.
All right, let's keep this short and sweet. The Philadelphia Eagles are riding a high wave of energy, rightfully so, following that absolute destruction of the Detroit Lions. I'm guessing Nick Sirianni, Gannon, players, everybody's already looking at the Chargers, and great. That's the right move. Here's the thing about LA. You probably didn't watch it because you were out celebrating. I happened to be working at the time with my eyes on that game. The LA Chargers flat out humiliated themselves at home. Now, I know that they don't have home fans to humiliate themselves in front of, but they have talent on that football team. They have a quarterback and multiple guys who can get downfield, and they have a real dangerous dual threat at the running back spot in Austin Eckler. Make no mistake. The defense is intact. It's not like Mac Jones lit him up from a Patriots standpoint. He just truly old school game managed the hell out of that and didn't do much. But that's the problem from the Chargers defense, is that they didn't really force Mac Jones to make any throws. Jalen Hurts is in a situation where if that carries over to the Eagles game this week, then you better expect, and I am, and you should, that Jalen Hurts is going to take advantage of some opportunities. And really, when it comes down to it, be able to now, for all those naysayers and people who tried to find some sort of nitpicking and an absolute monster destroying of the Lions, then you're going to get to see him throw the football. And then we'll have a conversation about it next week on Post Play.